Episode number 24 of the Quick Bricks NBA DFS podcast. As always, I'm your host, Sean, brought to you by the good guys over at the Sports Degens. As always, hope you guys are following. Hope you guys have been having a good week. We've finally met another Friday. I hope you guys are as happy as I am. Another Friday means we have another nice slate. So we get another pod, 9 games on the slate tonight. There's a lot of good spots that I like on this slate tonight. I think it's going to be a good one. Let's go ahead and jump right into it. First game on the docket, we got 224 total of Atlanta traveling over to Boston. Boston is a minus 13 home favorite. Pretty big favorite here. Kyrie at 9K is really, really enticing, but he's really, really priced up. The Hawks just, they're the Hawks. It's hard to gauge. Boston just went into, an overtime game with Washington and prevailed on Kyrie's massive night. So Kyrie at 9K, if you're feeling it, I'm okay with it. Obviously, it does carry some risk. Marcus Morris is 6.5K. The guy's been playing really well since, all the injuries and people sitting. It does look like the Celtics could be, again, without Horford. It looks like Hayward is probably going to make his return, but Jaylen Brown is questionable. I still think Marcus Morris is going to still see plenty of minutes. 41.8 and 44 in his last two. He's taking over the reins. He loves to eat the usage whenever he gets the court time, and especially when there's nobody else out there to take it from him. So I'm kind of looking at Kyrie, kind of looking at Marcus Morris. I think if you want to go cheap and think that maybe this game kind of gets a little bit of a blowout, Robert Williams is getting a little bit of run at 3.5K, 26 minutes. In 14 minutes in his last two, he put up 18 and 29 fantasy points in those two. Limited time, he's getting in there and balling out. If you think that maybe the Hawks can't keep up, which I'm kind of thinking that they don't. I don't know exactly how. Boston had a day off, so they shouldn't be too fatigued. But Robert Williams at 3.5 brings a little bit of decent value. Obviously, Horford's out. Baines didn't. He's on a minutes restriction. Only played like 10 or 11 minutes last game, and then Theis didn't play very much at all. So they kind of split three ways. But maybe he can get a little extra run in this game, especially if he gets out of hand. So something to look at. It's worth a punt if you're in tournaments for sure. For Atlanta, I'm not really. I'm not going all out here. I like Collins at 7.2. He's been playing really well. 44, 57, 45, and 44 in his last 4 games. I mean, he's been balling. He's about the only guy on the whole Atlanta Hawk team that's been consistently playing really well. And they've been talking about it. His price is up 7.2K now. But I like Collins. I think he's a really good basketball player. He's a real good young kid. I think he's going to have a bright future. So Collins, Bazemore, I don't hate. And I'm not going to lie, that's really all that's all that I can even look at. And by playing those, I'm praying that they stay in the game. So let's move along. New York Knicks at Charlotte. Charlotte is a minus 11 home favorite here, 225 on the total. Again, I'll be going back to Cantor. Charlotte is not that good against the center spot, or they have not been. They've been giving up some pretty decent games. Cantor's over 33 or more fantasy points in his last 4 or 5 games. I mean, he's back starting. He continues to be fairly cheap. I think he was 6.6 on the last slate, and I was on him. He put up 34 fantasy points, something like that. Another decent spot for him here at 7.1K. I'm totally fine with it. Emmanuel Mudiay, I was on him last game, and there was some discussion that he might not see very many minutes. He only saw like 19 the game before. They're still without Trey Burke. I think he's questionable tonight. I'm not sure, but I don't think he's playing. He played 30. I think he played 30 minutes, and he scored over 30 fantasy points. So, at 5.7K, it's not the greatest matchup, but you can't hate it for the starting point guard, hoping that he gets 30 minutes. I know it is kind of risky in a way, but anyway, I like it fairly enough. Kevin Knox, 4.8, put up 50.3 and 35 in his last two. Played 41 minutes and 33 minutes since he's entered the starting rotation at the 3. He's still way too cheap. He's going to play. He's going to put up shots. We know that. He's a big usage guy, it looks like. So Kevin Knox at 4.8, I'm on it for sure. Let's see here. Kimba at 9.2 has now put up 51 and 60 in his last two. Maybe he's on a heater. Maybe you need to jump back on. Obviously, he's going to get a good matchup here with Moutier. The Knicks are not exactly a great wing guarding team, and Kimba is at home. So with that said, at 9.2, it's kind of slightly in the same boat as Kyrie here, as Charlotte is 11-point home favorite here. Double-digit home faves are kind of hard to predict, but if the Knicks can hang around, Kimba can have a big game. Marvin Williams at 4.9 has now put up 34, 25, and 29 in his last three. He's been playing pretty well. He might have a little bit of a tough sled down there with Cantor and Vonleh, but for his price at 4.9, he's got some decent value. Not a ton, but he's got some decent value. Once again, little French girl Tony Parker at 4.3. He's now put up 27, 23, and 35 in his last three. He's back to full health, it seems, and he's getting decent run, and he's making the best of it. So Tony Parker at 4.3, I don't hate it as a punt. And that's kind of really all that I'm looking at in the New York Knicks and in the Charlotte game. Kimba, I'm growing to like more. With his last couple of games, he's been balling out again. He might be catching that heater like he did in that, kind of first half part of the season there, where he just balled out for like 5 or 6 games. He definitely has the ability to do so. So, like I said, Cantor, I think, is still relatively cheaply priced. I don't think I can pass up Knox at 4.8. Moutier at 5.7 is fairly cheap. Marvin Williams at 4.9 is fine. So that's kind of where I'm looking at in that game. Let's move right along to Milwaukee at Cleveland. This game right here screams Giannis to me for some reason. Obviously, whenever you see Milwaukee, the first thing you think of is Giannis. However, I have not played Giannis in probably 2 weeks, 3 weeks maybe. He hasn't appealed to me very well. But tonight he is appealing to me on this slate. I don't think there's a whole lot of studs to pay up for. And as far as over like 10K, I think he's my main guy right now. And by far, I know he put up 36 in his last game, but his last 4 road totals have gone 36, 55, 76, and 60. I think he brings decent value here. Cleveland has now started Nance at the 5, or no, I'm sorry. The dead corpse of whatever the fuck his name is. Channing Frye, sorry. They're putting Channing Frye out there at the 5, and Nance is still playing over 30 minutes. However, Cedi Osman has moved to the 4. That's good news for Giannis. They don't have anybody that can guard Giannis. They really don't. So I think Giannis is definitely worth the play building around tonight, and I definitely will be. Also, I think you can stack it up. Stack it with Bledsoe at 7.6, over 40 or more in his last 4 of 6. Brooke Lopez at 4.8 has put up 33.8, 25, and 32 in his last 3. Even Sterling Brown at 3.3, if you want to stick him in the mix. He's put up 26. He put up 26 2 games ago against Cleveland, the same Cleveland team. Sterling Brown's been getting good run. He's kind of a point per minute play. He's definitely not huge upside. He's a shooting guard, but he tends to do a little more than just shoot. So he flashes a little bit of upside. Like I said, put up 26. That's, if you look at that in terms of value, that's like close to 7 times right there. Actually that's closer to 8 times. I'm sorry. However, it's kind of a risky play, but I think if you're stacking Milwaukee, which I think this is a fine team stack, with Bledsoe, Giannis, Brooke Lopez even, and Brown even, I don't hate it at all. So for Cleveland, Nance obviously at 6.2, played 33 minutes, put up 40 fantasy points last game. We know he's going to play. He's going to play a lot. They are without Tristan Thompson. They're going to need him. Just hopefully he can stay out of foul trouble. But at 6.2, totally fine. Malcolm Brogdon at 5.5, totally fine. 34 or more in his last 3 or 4 on the road. Why did I say Malcolm Brogdon on Cleveland? I don't know. My fault. Clarkson at 5.3, I'm totally fine with. Played 34 minutes last game, put up 37.3. He outshined Sexton once again. Clarkson comes in off the bench and plays really well, except for the fact that he might have to see Eric Bledsoe for a little bit. Not a huge fan of that, but Clarkson still has plenty of upside. As far as anybody else on that team, I liked Burks more when he was coming off the bench. Him and Clarkson were making a really good duo. That's kind of threw a wrench in it with him starting now. I'm not a big fan of him as a starter. He just hadn't been playing very well. But he still carries a little value. His price is back down a little bit. And if you're feeling Burks, I'm totally fine with it. So that's kind of where I'm looking at. Cleveland, I just really can't find much else to really like there or love even. Nance is my big one. Clarkson I still think is fairly priced at 5.3. Yeah, that's about it. Not a fan of Osman. Don't care for Hood. Even though Hood put up a pretty decent game last game, he's just so hit and miss. It's hard to really like him a lot. So, I'm going to move on. Washington at Brooklyn, 225 on the total. This is one of the games that has one of the higher totals on the board. We know that Washington loves to run with pace. We know that Brooklyn doesn't exactly, but they will. This is a pace-up spot. So, Brooklyn is actually a 1.5-point home favorite here, which is pretty funny. DAR at 7.3. I know everybody's going to jump off and nobody's going to be on him tonight. I say nobody will be on him. I think he does still carry a lot of ownership on most slates when he probably shouldn't. But and I hope he doesn't tonight because I kind of like him. And I like him at 7.3 for sure in this kind of a pace-up spot here against John Wall. I know he put up a dud last game against Philadelphia in which he put up 63 the time before he played Philly. But he has kind of bounced back in some similar spots. So I wrote a few down, and I just wanted to kind of put those out there. But one game he put up 26.8, next game he put up 43. One game he put up 22.5, next game he put up 55. One game he put up 14.3, the next game he played Philly and put up 63. So, with that being said, it looks like he does bounce back in most areas. There were a couple of back-to-back games where he had some pretty low total outputs, but for the most part, he's bouncing back fairly well. So DAR will definitely be on my radar. Jared Allen at 5.6, I think this game fits in pretty well. Washington doesn't have a true center still without Howard. They're starting Bryant, and we know that Washington is still giving up a lot of fantasy points to just about every spot. Crab is questionable tonight. He's been playing really well. His price went up to $4.5K though. Not a big fan of that, which can't really do much about it. But he's had 20 or more in his last 3 or 4 games. If he does not happen to go, that could open up some more minutes for maybe Shabazz Napier at 3.7 or 3.5, whatever he is. Joe Harris is going to continue to see his time. More so Shabazz. Shabazz would be worth looking at if Crab happens to sit for whatever reason. But if Crab plays, the way he's been shooting really well. So can't really at 4.5K still. He's been having nice value. So that's kind of where I'm looking at for Brooklyn. For Washington, obviously you're going to look at John Wall at 9.5. He came into last game with 0 ownership, played 41 minutes, put up 67 fantasy points. So it was an overtime game against Boston. However, he put up a really good line. I guess he is fine. I didn't mean to rhyme. Anyway, Kelly Oubre at 5.4. I'm fine with 27 or more in his last 3 or 4. I would be watching for Otto Porter status. He's questionable. I think he might have went to probable, but obviously we jumped on Jeff Green last game without Otto Porter, and it worked out fairly well. I'm still fine with Jeff Green even if Otto Porter does play, and I think his ownership will be a ton lower, obviously, if Porter does play. He's still getting to see plenty of minutes with no Howard. They're running a lot of Markieff at the 5 and getting him at the 4. So I'm totally fine with Green again. And that's kind of where I'm looking at Washington, Brooklyn. Decent game. Some value in there, and there's some pretty nice plays. DAR for sure. Wall, Oubre's fine. Allen's fine. I would look at Crab. I would look at Napier, and obviously Jeff Green. Markieff is kind of fell back into his usual role. He hasn't been putting a whole ton of effort lately, so I'm going to kind of wait. I hate waiting, but and this could be a game that he busts back out because Brooklyn has given up plenty of huge games to bigs, so I don't hate Markieff, and if you find yourself playing him, I'm totally fine with it. So, Indiana at Philadelphia. There's no line on this game. Obviously, we don't know if Butler's going to play. We don't know what they're going to do with Oladipo. He had a day off, and he played 29 minutes, said he felt fine. With that said, Vic Oladipo at 8.4. Yeah, Philadelphia, like I said, we just talked about it. They gave up a 63-point game to DAR. They really have given up some pretty big games to point guards. So Vic, he does run the point a lot once he gets, I know Collison is the main point guard, but Vic runs it quite a bit as well. If he's going to see 30 minutes, I don't know. I hate that he's kind of capped. That kind of hurts his fan. Obviously that hurts his upside, but and especially at 8.4. I'll kind of wait to see a little more, but if they say that he's going to play at least 30-plus minutes, I mean, at 8.4, I'm totally fine with it. Thaddeus Young at 5.7 has been playing really, really good lately. 58, 39, 32, and 34 in his last four, and it's a revenge game. We all know that he did play for Philadelphia a few years back before he became a Pacer. So Thaddeus Young at 5.7, go ahead, sure. Turner at 7.4. Miles Turner has been playing very well again. I mean, not again, but he's been playing very well lately. Over 42 or more in his last 4 of 6 games. Tough matchup. Obviously, he's going to have a really tough matchup with Embiid. But he's cheap. I mean, he's pretty damn cheap for a center. So, I don't hate Turner. Embiid at 10.6, put up 66 last game against Brooklyn. Everybody puts up big games against Brooklyn. We knew that. However, if Butler doesn't play again, it's hard not to like Embiid. I mean, I like Giannis a little bit more at 11K rather than paying the 10.6 for Embiid. If Butler plays, I probably would definitely rather jam Giannis. But like I said, yeah, Embiid at 10.6. I played him and Simmons both. Simmons was on my best line the other night, where I put up 345 or 348 or whatever it was. So Simmons obviously is priced way up there. If Butler plays, I definitely won't be playing any Simmons. But if he does not play, I might be looking to play a little Simmons here. But Indiana has been very good against guards, and Indiana has been, on the whole, they've been just very underrated defense. I mean, they're pretty damn good. So I'm not a huge fan of this game at all, really, and I probably won't play very many pieces. But Korkmaz at 3.8, if he gets to start again, it's kind of hard to pass up 3.8 value. He's put up 30 or more fantasy points in his last 2, I think. So it's hard to not like that. If Butler doesn't play again, I think you got to look again at Redick. Redick has been shooting very poorly, and he should carry no ownership. But we know that once he gets hot, he can light it up. With his defensive, stats, and if he gets hot from the 3-point line at 5K, Redick, if no Butler, because he will see, obviously he's been seeing a ton of minutes with Butler still, but he's kind of just a role player. But without Butler, he sees a little bit more usage. He gets a little bit of that usage too. So at 5.1, I'm totally fine with it. And that's kind of where I'm looking at Indiana and Philly. That's, like I said, it'll probably be a lower scoring game. Indiana's been playing very good defense. So Miami at Memphis, no line on this game as well. Waiting to see if Hassan's going to play or not. If he does, which the reports are saying that he should be back tonight, you get a little bit of baby narrative here. And Hassan is 7.5K. Just had a baby. For those of you that like the narratives, I enjoy them. So, Memphis has given up pretty big games to centers. This game definitely fits Hassan very well. It's a slow pace. It's going to be a grind. I like Hassan. Winslow at 5.2, I'm totally fine with. He had a bum game last game, but he's still, put up over 40 or so for 35 fantasy points in his last 3 or 4 games. So before that, Winslow I'm fine with. A guy that I'm looking at that's a cheapie, it's going to be Derrick Jones Jr. at 3.7. I talked about him on the pod last time. I talked to him about a pod the game before, and I never played him. And watch, I'll play him tonight, and he probably won't even get any run. But 25, 29, 26 minutes in his last 3, 23, 37, 29 fantasy points. That's very nice upside for a 3.7 guard. Derrick Jones Jr., I'm totally fine with. For Memphis, I like Green. I like JaMychal Green at 4.6. He's still just an excellent value. He's put up 28 or more in his last 5 or 6, and 2 or 3 of those were over 30. At 4.6, I don't see what you could ask more for there. He's been playing really well. Gasol at 7.8, I think it's kind of in the same boat. Not as Green, but as Hassan. This game fits him well. Gasol's due for a game, and he's been playing decently, but he's due for a game. I'm not sure about the Conley situation. He's questionable, so something to watch. But like I said, other than that, that's really all that I'm looking at in Miami and Memphis. So let's move to OKC at Denver, where I'm just not really a huge fan of this game either. 217 on the total, OKC minus 1.5. It's in Denver. It's in altitude. I hate playing Russ on the road. He's been getting his triple doubles, but he's been barely notching 40 fantasy points. It's tough. Jamal Murray's been questionable. He's been dealing with that forearm injury. It's kind of iffy. But however, if I'm playing OKC, I'm going to be playing PG at 9.1, put up 54, 49, 44, and 77 in his last 4. Russ at 10.8. Like I said, I think I'm going to jam Giannis. I really like Steven Adams at 6.3. Denver has been prone to giving up decent games to centers. This game may not fit Adams as well, but at 6.3, he's just cheap, man. This is really cheap. He's been playing really well, too. For Denver, Jokic at 9.4, over 53 in his last 3 of 5, in the last 2 are 44 and 46. So, yeah. Jokic at 9.4, it's tough. Steven Adams is a good defender, but Jokic is a magician. So if you feel like playing Jokic, totally fine with it. Monty Morris at 4K has been playing really well with Jamal's situation. So Monty Morris at 4.0 is tough to pass up. I think this game could fit Plumlee really well at 4.3. We know Millsap's still out. Between him and Trey Lyles, they've been kind of switching in and out. But this game, I think, fits Plumlee at 4.3. I will have some Plumlee. They're going to need him down low. And that's really all that I'm looking at in OKC at Denver. Like I said, I just don't really care for it a whole lot. Toronto at Portland, no line on this game as well. Not sure the situation with Kawhi. Obviously, if Kawhi doesn't play again, I'm going to stack Lowry and Ibaka. No Valanciunas for about 4 to 6 weeks, so Ibaka is he's thrusted and entrusted, and he's going to keep that center role. So he already was, basically. So now you can basically lock him into 30-plus minutes every game. So, yeah, Ibaka at 6.3, absolutely. Lowry had his price jump a 1K. I'm totally fine with it, 8.2, especially if no Kawhi. Other than that, that's really all that I'm looking at for Toronto. For Portland, McCollum has been on fire lately, 33, 53, 39 in his last 3. He's 7.1K. If you're into that sort of thing. Nurkic, I think, is in a decent spot at 6.7. And Dame, I don't think you're going to find him cheaper. 8.5K tonight at home. Just, I guess, because he's playing Toronto. I don't know. I don't think you can pass up Dame at 8.5K. I think you just plug it and go. So that's kind of where I'm looking at for Toronto and Portland. Golden State at Sacramento, 8.5-point road favorite for Golden State here. 234 on the total. I guess you got to get highest total on the board so far by far. You got to get some exposure. Obviously, Steph at 10.2, absolutely. I don't know if I'm going to be on KD at 10.6. Like I said, he's up there. I really like Giannis tonight. Like I said, if you've been following along on the pods, you know that I have not been on Giannis at all lately. So this one, I think I'm going to be jamming Giannis. So Steph, Clay at 6.2. For Sacramento, De'Aaron Fox at 7K. Willie Cauley-Stein at 6.4. Bogdan at 6K. Put up over 32 in his last 3. Marvin Bagley just had 26 minutes, put up 36 fantasy points against Minnesota. He's 5.7. So there's some value there. And it's a good game. So that's kind of where I'm looking. That's it, man. That wraps up all 9 games for tonight's slate. Hope you guys enjoy the pod. Hope you guys enjoy your Friday. Let's talk in the SC Slack chat later. Have a good one.